Hello everyone, and welcome to my interpretation video for yesterday's Pokémon Direct, which revealed new details on the upcoming Sword and Shield games. These are set for release on November 15th, 2019 worldwide in a simultaneous release. The video you can watch is just made up of screenshots from the Direct, which I've linked in the description if you've yet to watch it in full. Let's get started. In my opinion, all of the Pokémon designs look great, especially Dreadnought and Corviknight. I was a bit uninspired by the starters when they were first revealed, but the more I see of them, the more I like them, except for Scorbunny. There's just something about that one I just don't like. If the games were to release tomorrow, I think my personal choice would be Grookey. Just to quickly mention, Corviknight has been branded as a flying taxi by the game art director. I don't think there's anything too exciting here, as it just sounds like an updated version of the Fly hidden machine, unless there could be a mini-game involved, or it could play out more like flying on Latias Latios in Oras, which I was a big fan of. The two legendaries, they look exactly that, legendary. They've clearly got some kind of advanced form, like many legendaries do these days, such as the Primals, Mega Mewtwo, Zygarde and so on, the mythical Pokemon Hooper, for example. My guess is that in the footage we see of the two legendaries preparing to fight each other, the reason they stop and then appear to team up and go into their overpowered state is probably because of the third legendary, i.e. something along the lines of Rayquaza or Giratina coming into the fray. Keeping on the theme of aesthetics, the region of Galar looks very lush. It does look a lot like rural England, I do have to say. But the snippets we've seen of the gym arenas, some of the towns, and especially to me the shots that stood out in the opening video, which is about 2 or 3 minutes long. You can see these screenshots now. It's a town with some weird looking steps leading up to kind of a lighthouse shaped building, and also what looks like the player heading underground with like a giant turning cog in the background. These little details look very cool to me, very interesting indeed, but the region as a whole, very excited to explore. It looks varied from what we've seen, especially with the Pokemon that are walking around. So there's some shots where you see a Tyranitar walking through a desert, there's an Avalugg walking through a snowy kind of field environment. It looks very varied, it's going to be a ton of fun to explore. In terms of the gameplay, we hear Amori from Game Freak say gym leaders, which means the game is going back to its usual formula of beating gyms to eventually become the champion, which again, Amori verbally confirmed that the aim of the game is to become the champion, but it's also confirmed with the reveal of the character Leon, more on him in a minute. It seems the trials of Alola are being left behind, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. However, one thing that is sticking around from the Alola region, or kind of, is the Totem Pokemon. So these were just bigger versions of normal Pokemon, and this time we're getting something called Dynamax, which is even bigger forms of normal Pokemon. It's a brand new way of getting yourself just an enormous mon. There's not too many details on how this works, how it unlocks for your Pokemon or how you get it, but what we do know is that it is a massive, quote, power boost that lasts for 3 turns, giving it a tactical edge, especially in competitive Pokemon. I'm not massively keen on the look of Dynamaxing overall. I think it looks a little bit gimmicky, and personally I was happy enough with just Mega Evolutions. Not to say that these are disappearing, because I very much doubt they are, but Mega Evolutions to me just have a bit more creativity to them. Let's talk about the wild area, boring name by the way. This is an area where the influence of Pokemon Go is absolutely undeniable. We've never before had co-op online play in a Pokemon game, unless you count Go of course, and the Dynamax raid boss Pokemon are clearly a borrowed idea from the enormous raid bosses you encounter in Pokemon Go. Not just this, but the idea of having to go to a specific place on the in-game map, hoping there are other players there to help, is exactly the same as a raid in Pokemon Go. To be honest, I like the idea of this on paper, and the planning director at Game Freak, Iwao, sorry if I've pronounced that terribly, mentions how some Pokemon can only be obtained after you've beaten them in a max raid battle, which is cool. The key thing here for me is getting the gameplay right, because if it ends up being exactly like Go, where you just spam moves until the boss is defeated, then this will definitely be a missed opportunity and it will just get boring. I don't have the answer for this, but something maybe like a 10-second countdown for each player to choose a move without their fellow trainers knowing what their choice is, and then having the battle play out as turn-based like normal battles would make things a bit more exciting and nerve-wracking. You'd need everyone to play their part to succeed. My last few points will be short and sweet. Firstly, I'm going to talk about the characters. It's nice to see another female professor in Professor Magnolia, which I think she's got a great name. And her granddaughter Sonia looks like a pretty standard NPC for Pokemon games. Not too much really to say about these two. However, your rival is called Hop. He's the champion Leon's younger brother, and again, a quote from Amori, he starts his adventure when you do. It seems that, much like how, whichever sex you choose to play as, your rival is going to be a boy called Hop. However, Amori does say that one of your rivals is Hop, so there could be more on this revealed at a later date, or hopefully we just find out when the games launch and we play through. Hop rather helpfully displays that the characters now have pretty much fully animated mouth movements when speaking. You know, not to the level of a Rockstar game, for example, but it was never going to be. But that's pretty cool. It's not just the changing facial expressions we had in Sun and Moon. I've mentioned him twice already. Leon, the champion of the game, seems to be a lot of hype around this guy. To me, he just looks like a Final Fantasy character. Not too fussed about him overall. He's definitely not as cool as Steven, that's for sure. Finally, one thing that I noticed that was entirely omitted from the Direct was a mention of an evil team, such as, you know, Team Rocket, Team Plasma, Skull, etc. Whether this idea has been scrapped entirely or just being redesigned remains to be seen. I very much doubt the idea has been scrapped, because more often than not the evil teams form the entire basis of the storyline in Pokemon games, so it does seem unlikely that these will be gone completely. Just something I thought to mention, as no one else seems to have mentioned it yet. So these are my thoughts and interpretations of the Pokemon Direct. All in all, showed us some new cool Pokemon, a few brand new gameplay activities, and some of the character list. Nothing too unexpected, no serious curveballs, nothing to really grab your attention too much other than the Dynamax and raid features, which personally I'm still on the fence about. Until we have actual gameplay details, it's kind of hard to judge. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, or you can tweet us at TopChatPodcast on Twitter. Thanks very much for listening.